they rotate so many guys on defense. Does that make it any harder, easier, different when you're play calling?
It's probably all of that. I think that it's in some arenas it can be more difficult. In some areas it can be a little. I don't want to say easier. It's different. There's certain things that you'd like to attack or not attack and whatnot, and it's a real challenge for us to make sure we know the personnel grouping that they have on the field defensively.
So yeah, you're trying to have guys identify spots where you can go when they're swapping people out.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not a whole lot different than other teams or how we are for that matter on defense, and so that's relatively typical of the fact that guys are rotating guys. I think we played upwards to over 20 some odd guys last week on defense as well, so that's pretty typical.
Steve, how has this week of practice been different in preparing for a team like Oregon?
It hasn't been that different. Practicing hard, prepared well. I think our guys are focused on the tasks that they need to get done, whether it's individually or within position groups or whatever phase of the game we're working on, offense, defense, or special teams. They've been locked in.
Any sense of because it was such a huge win over Stanford, no emotional letdowns or any
no, not at all.
Worries that way?
These guys are a serious group. They had a good week of work, and I say it every week. You could say it was a good week of work or a bad week of work, and then you get to the game and they play good or they play bad. So you like to practice really well. It makes everybody feel better. So I think we did that, but ultimately we have to go play Saturday night.
Their noise, obviously, it's an issue. It's an issue everywhere on the road. With young linemen, is it any more of an issue in the fact maybe those guys have been together for a couple of weeks now? Does that mitigate that at all, going down there for the specific game? Or
I think that helps. Anytime you line up next to a similar guy, and all that helps. We're unique in that we play music every day in practice, and obviously get weeks like this we use crowd noise. But I think our guys are pretty accustomed to having to communicate with noise in the background as it is. So. We'll try to minimize that distraction of the crowd noise by just being accustomed to it. But their fans do a nice job. They get into the game.
Do they change, Steve, the way they call the game or play the game in the second half, or do they hold something back until the second half? What's the reason why?
I don't know exactly that. Chip's probably better to answer that one than me. But I think that they gain confidence in the second half. I think that they believe in themselves in the second half, that they're gonna make more plays, and that maybe they're counting on the defense to break down. I definitely think there's a belief there. Now, scheme wise and all that, you'd have to ask Chip that one.
Is it often conditioning for you guys? Going to have to.
Well, I think it's going to be key, and we've obviously exhausted ourselves on that here for quite some time. The ability to be disciplined and to execute when you're a bit fatigued is one of the key challenges. Our ability to substitute early in the game is another one of the key challenges. So a lot that goes into it, but it's the discipline when you're fatigued to stay in the form of executing really well, using proper technique, still tackling extremely well is one of the key principles in the second half. In the first half as well, but definitely in the second half.
Well, what drills or requirements in practice do you put in for the guys to test how mentally acute they are?
Well, we've been now for really 3 weeks doing quite a bit of no huddle, because it was a big part of our game plan last week versus Stanford. Obviously, knowing we had Oregon coming up here, so we've challenged them quite a bit from a conditioning standpoint. But then, as soon as those no huddle periods were done, we went to a lot of assignment, alignment, and challenged them mentally. And so we've tried to give them both phases of that.
Steve, this is your second road game. Are you still trying to find their identity for how they're doing on the road, or did the LSU game tell you a lot about what this team is?
We didn't play good at LSU. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. I don't think that we didn't, we have guys that was too big for them or anything like that. We just didn't play well. And when you play against good teams on the road, top 5 teams on the road, execution is paramount, and that's going to be the same way Saturday night at Oregon.